Hi, I'm Gareth Green, and in this video we're going to answer a question that many people have, because lots of people are happy about using chords but ask about chord progression. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we have a chord, what are the best chords to follow that chord, or even to follow on from that chord? So we're going to start with just one chord, chord 1, and we're going to think about what the best options would be for the two chords that follow on from chord 1. And I'm going to do this in such a way that it works for major keys and for minor keys equally well, just to give you an idea as to what chord progressions might work well. Now, just in case we're in any doubt about chords, let's have a quick run through how chords work. And I'm going to do all of this in C major, simply because it makes it easier not to have to think about which sharps and flats have we got in a key signature. So to understand the chord system that you can see notated on the board here, in C major, the scale goes like this: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And if we want to form chords on each note of the scale, each degree of the scale as we call it, we put the note with the third and the fifth above it. So chord 1 is C, because that's the first note of the scale, with a third above it, which is E. So 3 notes above C is E. And the G, 5 notes above C, a fifth. So we say we have a root, a third and a fifth. And because this root, third and fifth is built on C, the first degree of the scale, that's chord 1. So if I do the same thing on D, D, F, A, that's chord 2. Chord 3, E, G, B. Chord 4, F, A, C. Chord 5, G, B, D. Chord 6, A, C, E. Chord 7, B, D, F. And that gives me what we call the diatonic chords in the key of C major. Okay, diatonic because those are the chords in the key using the notes of the key. So that's how it works in C major. Now, if I'm in C minor, because we're also going to think about minor keys, well, that's just a little bit more complicated, because in C minor, we have 3 flats in the key signature: B flat, E flat, and A flat. Because we're doing chords, this is harmony. So we tend to use the harmonic minor scale as our kind of default position for writing chords, for writing harmony. Hence the title, harmonic minor scale, harmony, chords. So in C minor, we've got 3 flats. We've got B flat, E flat, and A flat. And in the harmonic minor scale, the 7th degree of the scale is raised. So B flat is raised to B natural. So in other words, in C minor, I'm going to use E flat and A flat. So when I do the same chords in C minor, chord 1 is C, E flat, G. Chord 2, D, F, A flat. Chord 3, E flat, G, B. Chord 4, F, A flat, C. Chord 5, G, B, D. Chord 6, A flat, C, E flat. Chord 7, B, D, and F. Okay, so you see how that works in C minor, just as it does in C major. You've just got to think key signature and harmonic minor scale. Okay, well, with that background, let's now look at all these options. So I'm not saying these are the only options, but I've come up with 13 different possibilities. How about that? 13, your lucky number. So you don't have to memorize all these things, but you might just want to work through them in your own space and play them and just get a feel for, okay, how does that chord sound after this chord? All the chords sound perfectly all right in their own right, but sometimes when you progress from one chord to another, in a piece of music you think, oh, actually that doesn't sound very good. There's nothing wrong with this chord, there's nothing wrong with that chord, but they don't necessarily progress brilliantly. So this is really about chord progression. So a piece of music often starts on chord 1, what we call the tonic chord, and then well, where are we going to go next? And at least with this, you've got 13 options for what your next two chords could be, and that would get you moving, wouldn't it? So let's work through these and see what they feel like. So number one is going 1, 4, 5, and I'm going to present these not in the triad form that I've just demonstrated, but once you've got the notes of the triad, so chord 1, C, E, G, well, I could do anything with that as long as I've got the note C, E, G. That's still chord 1. I can have as many different notes sounding at the same time as I want to, as long as I'm using the notes of chord 1. So you can spread them out in any way that suits you. Let's have a look at option 1. This is going 1 to 4 to 5. So have a listen to this. In C major, 1, 4, 5 could sound like this. Or I could have a different distribution of the notes. But you can hear that sounds quite solid, doesn't it? If I do it in C minor, or... So you see what I mean? It's about the progression of one chord to the next, to the next. That sounds really solid, that first option, because chords 1, 4 and 5 are what we call the primary chords. They're the most important chords in the key. They're the boldest chords. So if you have a 1, 4, 5 progression, you can't go too far wrong with that one. Okay, well, what about if we go 1 to 4 to 1B? Now, what do I mean by this 1B thing? Well, if I say that we're using chord 1B, we said that chord 1 was C, E and G, and I said we could arrange that in any way we want to. If it's a B, it's what we call a first inversion. If it's a C, it's what we call a second inversion. So if you're kind of trained in a sort of UK system that spreads out all over the world, you'll know that A, B and C are used to describe inversions. So A is root position, B is first inversion, C is second inversion. And if you don't see a letter, you just assume it's A. If you've been brought up in the US tradition, which also spreads all over the world, then you'll know that the root position chord, in this case, would be 1. If you wanted to identify it, you'd write 1 and then a 5-3 next door to it. If it was first inversion, you'd write 1 and then you'd have a 6-3. If you wanted a second inversion, you'd write the 1 and then 6-4. It's the same system, but just labeled differently. So in the American system, A is 5-3, B is 6-3, C is 6-4. And you can see how that translates. So I'm using a UK system here, and I'm going 1 to 4 to 1B. So this is what that sounds like in C major. Now that's quite nice, isn't it? Because the change of inversion at the end means that we haven't got too many root position chords, but we've already introduced a first inversion chord. And when you write a piece of music, quite good to have a balance between root position and first inversion chords, maybe using the occasional second inversion, but root position and first inversion. So here's an opportunity to have your first inversion as the third chord. So 1, 4, 1B. So it's the C, E, G chord, but with E in the bass. What's that like in C minor? So it works quite well in a minor key as well, doesn't it? Okay, well, what if we had a first inversion chord as the second chord in? So option 3 is going 1, 4B, 5. So in C major, that could be 1, 4B, 5. Do you see how that works quite nicely? Because at the top I can go E, F, G. I don't have to go E, F, G at the top, but it gives me quite a nice melodic line. That'd be one way of doing it. Let's give it a different melodic line in C minor. So that's 1, 4B, 5, but this time different melodic line. Works perfectly well, doesn't it? And you hear the impact of using that first inversion chord, but this time as the second chord. Okay, let's move on. Option 4. And in option 4, we're going 1, 2B, 5. 2B or not 2B. It's what I call the Shakespeare chord. Anyway, 1, 2B, 5 in C major goes like this. Okay, or if I'm in a minor key, C minor. Okay, so it sounds nice in both. I particularly like the sound of that one in the minor key, I have to say. Okay, let's move on. Now we've got the idea of how this works. Option number 5 is going 1 to 1B to 4. Now this is quite a good one as well, because you start with your chord 1, you reaffirm your chord 1, but the bass moves because of the inversion. So you have some sense of 1 being reaffirmed, but pushing you on somewhere else, and it pushes on to 4 very nicely. So in C major, 1, 1B, 4 goes like this. You can feel that little kick in the back, like going on to the 1B before the 4. So you see how that one works. Or if we're in a minor key in C minor, you could do that. And of course you can repeat C at the top, because C belongs to 1 and to 4, but you don't have to. So if you've got repeated notes at the top, that's how you could use 3 chords there, but with the same repeated note at the top, because sometimes repeated notes in melody can be a bit of a nuisance. You think, am I just stuck on the same chord? Not necessarily. But you don't have to repeat the same note at the top by the same token. So you've got lots of choice here. Okay, now option number 6 is going 1, 5, 6. This is quite a strong one, because 1 and 5 are primary chords. They're major chords in a major key. 6 is quite an important secondary chord, but it's a minor chord in a major key. So you hear this, 1, 5, 6 goes major, major, minor. So that's quite a nice progression, isn't it? In C minor, it's going to go minor, major, major. So 1 in C minor, 5, 6. So it sounds different in the minor key, because of course in a major key we've got some chords being major, some chords being minor, one chord being diminished. So in a major key, 1 is major, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor, 7 is diminished. In the harmonic minor, and of course I'm not talking about melodic minor now or natural minor, but in the harmonic minor, 1 is minor, 2 is diminished, 3 is augmented, 4 is minor, 5 is major, 5 is major, 7 is diminished. So you get the colour inside the key of all these different kinds of chords as well. So you feel the difference there between the major and the minor key, because the major minor thing plays out differently. Okay, now option number 7 is going from 1 to 5, then coming back to 1, but instead of just coming back to 1, which would be a bit boring, if I went 1, 5, 1, we started, we went somewhere, we came back. Well, we haven't really gone anywhere. So if the third chord is a 1B, well, you're coming back to chord 1, but it feels different because it's in first inversion. So 1, 5, 1B. Aha. If I do that in C minor, 1, 5, 1B. Okay, so you see how this is working out. Let's roll on. Option 8 is going 1 to 6 to 5. Okay, how might that work? In C major, it might work like this. 1, 6, 5. Now that's quite nice, because it's going major, minor, major. Okay, what about if we're in C minor? Well, this one's going minor, major, major. Okay, you might be listening to these now thinking, well, I prefer this one to that, or I prefer this one in a minor key, or that one in a major key. That's great. You've got 13 options, so you can choose your favorite from these options. Okay, let's look at number 9. And of course there are other options, so it's not the only one in town. Option number 9 is going 1 to 6 to 4. It's another one of those where if you want to, you can repeat C at the top, because C belongs to 1 and to 6 and to 4. You don't have to do that. You could do something else. I mean, like you could do this and move to a different note, but you've got that option if you want it. Or if we're in a minor key, well, 1 to 6 to 4. You know, that feels like a phrase that's going to move on somewhere else, doesn't it? It might go 1 to 6 to 4 to 5. would be a nice progression, wouldn't it? So some of them feel as if this is just the start, we want to move on. Others sort of feel more complete in themselves. Option 10, 1 to 4 to 6. So it's the same as option 9, but going the other way around. So here's 1, 4, 6, or if I'm in a minor key, 1, 4, 6. Okay, you might like that one. You might think, oh, I prefer a different one. That's great. Okay, this is what it's all about. It shows you, you sort of think, don't you, we've only got so many notes in music. Surely all the options have been exhausted. No, there are so many possibilities, so many permutations. And in this case, these are just 13 options. And I know that you'll probably put a comment on the bottom saying, hey, but what about this option? Yeah, fine, what about it? There are lots of other possibilities. This is just to kind of get people started with this if they're worried about, well, what do I do after this first chord? And once you get going, it's amazing how that then propels you forwards. You get a bit more confidence with all this. Number 11 is going 1 to 6 to 2B. Shakespeare's back. So here we go with this one. 1, 6, 2B. If that was in a minor key, C minor, 1 to 6 to 2B. That's quite nice, isn't it? And again, that's another one where, particularly in the minor key, you might think that 2B wants to go on to 5. 1 to 6 to 2B to 5, So you can begin to see sometimes how some of these progressions lead you on to other places. Okay, well, I just wanted to give you an example that used a second inversion or a 6/4. And that's what number 12 is doing. And this is actually a device called a passing 6/4. It's when you have a second inversion sandwiched in between 1 and 1B. So if you have a second inversion sandwiched between 1 and 1B, it's usually 5C that you're looking for, a 5 in second inversion. Or you can have one between 4 and 4B, and that would be 1C, 1 in second inversion. So they're quite nice, these passing 6/4s. So that's something else that can get you started from a chord 1. So if I go 1, 5C, 1B in C major, it sounds like this. That's a nice smooth progression, isn't it? If I'm in C minor. So there we are. Now, number 13, your lucky number, is a slight variation on number 12. And it's just saying, actually, chord 7 is quite close to chord 5. Lots of textbooks advise you to avoid chord 7. It's a bit awkward because it's diminished. Well, there's some truth in that. But if you use chord 7 in first inversion, it usually sounds a lot better than using it in root position. So how about this as a variation on number 12, where I go 1, 7B, 1B. Or in C minor. So there we have it. Not a totally exhaustive list, but 13 possible 2-chord progressions that are going to move you on from chord 1. So as I say, many pieces of music will begin with chord 1 and you're immediately thinking, oh, where am I going to go next? Well, there's 13 possibilities for you. And as I say, once you get going on that and you've got 3 chords, you might think, oh, I can hear, I can feel where it wants to go next. So it should help you get moving on that. So I hope that's been a helpful exploration of some of your options to follow on from chord 1. And if you want to know more about harmony and chords and theory, or if you want to develop the aural skills to go with all this sort of theoretical thinking, we've got so many courses for you at Music Matters that would be really helpful. So have a look, www.mmcourses.co.uk. Click on courses on the home page. You'll find a whole list of things that will really empower you and help you to do this kind of work. Or you might want to join our Maestros program. So again, same website, click on Maestros on the home page. That will tell you all about Maestros, how you can support our channel, and also how there are so many perks for you, including the opportunity to attend our monthly live streams, where we're really doing so much more detail, unpacking music, looking at the music of different composers, seeing how the music works, really going much deeper with our Composer Insight series work there. And also we've got, as part of our live stream thing, also the opportunity for composers, arrangers, people writing harmony, performers to submit their work, where we can actually give you individual feedback from which the whole group of maestros can benefit. So have a look at all that stuff and you might well find there's something of interest to you.